Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Osterberger with BIC Magazine. Today we're talking to Paul Sullivan. Paul is Vice President Upstream, Midstream, LNG for Advisian Americas, a business unit of Worley. Hey, Paul has specialized in LNG for the past 30 years. His career has covered construction and engineering in Europe, the Middle East, India, Korea, China, Southeast Asia, and the Americas. Hey, Paul, so I just want to be clear, you must have more stamps in your passport than I do.
Potentially so, although nowadays with electronic, who knows?
That's right, Paul. And straight from the open, it's very clear you're native Texan. So that's
Of course.
nice, man. Dublin, Texas. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it, Paul. Thanks for hanging out, man. We're talking to you because you will be chairing the upcoming 4th American LNG Forum, slated for March 13th and 14th here in Houston. I've been, let's see, to the second. I missed the first one. I went to the second and third one, and now heading to the fourth. And we're going to talk all things LNG. And I just appreciate you coming on.
That's absolutely great. Looking forward to the chat, Jeremy, and looking forward to the conference.
Absolutely. So, Paul, for anyone watching that doesn't know the conference, the American LNG Forum covers everything from U.S. LNG export, LNG pricing, latest project updates, and offers a gateway for networking and learning about new technologies. So, just for those that don't understand what this is, a little bit about the conference. But, Paul, let's get right into it. So, look, give us a current state of the union of the LNG market.
Jeremy, this has been 2022 has been the most unusual year in many unusual years I've experienced, but this has been, of course, associated with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and its impact on the global energy markets. But more on that as we move down through our discussion.
So talk about that a little bit, Paul. What are kind of the short-term outlook for 2023, and what are some immediate challenges right now that we know are right in front of us?
Well, I mean, the immediate challenges were to divert LNG supplies to Europe due to the shutting down of the Russian pipelines. So that is sort of, on a basic level what happened. But what really happened is it has been a complete disruption of the LNG market, which has been reasonably well sort of regulated over the years. It has expanded at an average of 7% a year since I started in the business 30 years ago. And it has just gone off the rails. Russian exports, of course, have been sort of curtailed. We had a situation where the cost of LNG, which had been reasonably sort of subdued during COVID, suddenly went through the roof. And so that means that everybody competing for the supplies, paying over the odds, shortage of shipping, really sort of disruptive issue. But who's to say, as we'll discuss later on, disruption can at times be a basis on which we can both expand and continue the development of the industry. And this is particularly in the light of the greening of the LNG industry to meet requirements, to sort of meet goals of various organizations, companies, countries. And that process was well underway during the period prior to COVID and prior to the disruption of this last year. But more upon that, this is really a core part of the industry that we must not lose sight of, is the need to maintain the course towards greening the product.
So let's get into that a little bit further, Paul. So what role does LNG play in energy transition, or, a lot of times dubbed the energy expansion, when you talk about the demand here over the next, several years from population growth and demand of energy? But talk a little bit more about that. How does LNG play such an impactful role in that, like what you call that greening of the industry?
Well, I mean, the issue is, and we've been sort of saying it for the last 20 years, but then again, would we not, is that gas and gas as LNG is the foundation of the energy industry and of the transitioning energy industry. We have no means by which we can replace hydrocarbons completely at this time. And we obviously we have aspirations to reduce them down to, if you like, say, zero effect by 2050. But that can only be achieved by virtue of keeping gas and LNG as the lowest emission hydrocarbon in the mix. And we've no basis on which we can possibly meet the energy demand of an expanding world and an expanding access to energy without having gas and LNG as part and parcel of that. The issue is, how do we make it greener rather than, will it be replaced fully by hydrogen or ammonia as a hydrogen sort of carrier, or other fuels? And without the breakthrough to nuclear fusion, we probably are going to be living with these type of fuels for the next 40, 50 years. And that's, that is the reality. So it's a matter of what do we do to make sure that we hit our targets and that we preserve the world in which we live.
Right. So Paul, I'll kind of get in that a little bit, what are some myths and maybe even misconceptions about LNG that are still prevalent or maybe need to be, debunked?
Well, I mean, there's often a view that there is a huge disparity in view between environmental interests and the energy industry. This, in fact, is not the issue. We within the industry fully understand that gas as LNG and gas as pipeline gas is a hydrocarbon. It does contribute to the sort of CO2 load and the carbon footprint of our planet. So we can't get away from that. But what we're in agreement that is the case. What we need to be doing is working collaboratively to find a way of reducing the impact of that cleanness of the hydrocarbons on the environment. And there have been massive sort of moves forward in those areas over the last number of years. And we will sort of deal with this somewhat later in our discussion, but that is where we are. The myth is there that LNG bad, gas bad, and other fuels good, but we can't possibly have an energy industry without these. So we need to sort of collaborate and get ourselves aligned so that we can work together to create that cleaner planet.
And Paul, you talk about working together. Let's talk about hydrogen's role in the LNG, right? So, in some ways, hydrogen is seen as maybe even a competitor to LNG. But how do the two complement each other as we talk about this energy mix and the demand that we need for that energy mix?
Well, it's a very complex subject, the issue of hydrogen, the production of hydrogen, particularly green hydrogen, and the production of ammonia, which is the other favored means of transitioning to a hydrogen economy. There is actually no real competition. Green hydrogen is probably unable to fill anything other than a mid-sized role in our energy mix. Ammonia, on the other hand, is certainly a prime candidate because of its ability to be transported in large quantities, in large tankers. Its ability to certainly run so at relatively sort of standard temperatures and pressures. Right. So by comparison to hydrogen, which is a very difficult product to transport, other than by local pipelines or by trucking, but shipping hydrogen is credible and possible, but you cannot do it in the quantities that would be required to replace products like LNG. But ammonia is certainly a good one on that side, and it will form part of the issue. However, most of the ammonia production we have at present is produced by converting natural gas into ammonia by replacing the carbon atoms with nitrogen. And so what do we do with the carbon? That's the issue. So ammonia has a very, very heavy impact in terms of CO2 production from the production of ammonia. So our issue now is to concentrate on how we can sort of reduce that impact on our environment.
Right. Well, Paul, folks want to hear about projects. Current LNG export locations include, Kinder Morgan in Savannah, Georgia, Cameron LNG and Venture Global in Louisiana. We have Cove Point, Maryland, Cheniere and Corpus and Sabine Pass, and of course, Freeport LNG down in Texas. Freeport LNG has announced more investments into their facility. Can you expand on any other, current LNG projects? What are we going to see as far as investment, primarily, anything in the U.S.?
Yeah, well, you're quite right. If we confine ourselves to the U.S., outside the U.S., obviously Qatar is the other, I suppose, prime expansion project to, if you like to say, the continental U.S. projects. But the U.S. projects have literally sort of stepped into high gear at this stage. There have been undertakings, you would say, at a national level to help support Europe. And that has, I think, impacted on the speed at which both the expansions and the greenfield projects in the U.S. are getting off the ground. And you have, when we talk about the U.S., I think we also must keep an eye to the north, to Canada, and the movements there in relation to First Nations, sort of blessing LNG plants in general, based upon evaluation. So you have Cedar LNG, which is a direct First Nations project. You've got Kissila Sims, again a joint venture with the Niska, and then on the East Coast you have the Goulburn, Newfoundland, and others which were essentially dormant and have moved aside. In the US, though, we have an unbelievable move within the market here, and this is not this is not unexpected. We certainly anticipated the ones you mentioned. So if we're looking at it now, you look at the implementation, those that are sort of moving ahead at speed. So Venture Global, obviously, Cheniere, Freeport, Tellurian, Commonwealth, Golden Pass, and a little bit to the south, perhaps, Mexico Pacific, Energía Costa Azul, etc. And we see also projects which were essentially sitting dormant, now sort of brushing themselves off, getting going. The issues of the old Brownsville projects, potentially others where they have been put to bed on a temporary basis, and are now looking far more buildable and far more financeable than they were previously.
And Paul, the situation over, and you said Russia and Ukraine, do you think that, all the stakeholders, I'll just say that broad term, are maybe understanding, like you said, the need to brush these dusty projects off? Is that obviously putting a pressure to, move some of this forward?
Well, I think so. I mean, the situation in Europe was, to my recollection, that the installed capacity to import LNG was probably being utilized at only about 35%. Now what we have is this massive expansion in utilization of the existing import terminals, and the rush to implement FSRU type terminals, so floating terminals in Northern Europe, across Germany, I think 4 there, Holland 1, and others. And these have been brought to market at breakneck speed. We ourselves have been involved in Brunsbüttel, and this is like an 8-month program to get gas into the grid in Germany, and there are other projects as well with other German gas companies. But this has been a real sign of how markets and governments can walk in step and identify how to service a marketplace when, and hopefully soon, this issue is settled and the markets begin to at least tend towards more normalcy. What we will see is a massively expanded LNG market, I believe, because China will come back on board. Many of the countries which are now unable to import LNG at these extremely high prices will come back into action, come back into move, and we will see that the step up that has been created in terms of opportunities for LNG in the international market will remain at relatively high levels. And we'll not have steps back, because I think in terms of energy security, it has been a lesson to all of us as to the need to be prepared. And I think we are prepared now. And when these plants are completed, we will be fully prepared, and we'll go back, I hope, to being a good, satisfactory and dependable industry with reasonable returns for people who invest and reasonable returns for people who use. On top of which, of course, reasonable steps towards greening of our LNG.
Let's wrap up with that, Paul. One final question. Let's get into the greening of LNG. If there's any one thing that the industry should focus on at this time to provide greener energy, in your estimation, what would that be?
I mean, I move around the world. I speak at conferences. I meet people from all sides of the industry, and to me, the clearest and most straightforward way of controlling emissions is by not having emissions. So that involves carbon capture and sequestration. And if we can move forward along those lines of catching carbon for scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, we will have really made the major step to reduce our carbon footprints and green our energies. And whether that there are other means, using greener electricity, converting from gas turbines to electricity in new build plants, all of which is being implemented just as a matter of course by people in the industry. But it's the fact of capturing that carbon at some point. That is the one thing that will give us a massive and substantial reduction in the global footprint.
Well, Paul, it's been a pleasure hanging out, man. The next time we do this, I got an idea. Let's go to St. James Gate, Dublin, Ireland, and do this again over a pint, man. I don't know if you're in, but let's do it.
Absolutely. I'm on for it whenever you are.
I love it. Well, Paul, again, appreciate your time. It's certainly valued. We're going to wrap up this interview, but hey, we'll tease this because there'll be plenty of other conversations in the future. And thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Thank you, Jeremy, for featuring it.
Absolutely. For everyone else watching, if you want more information on the upcoming 4th American LNG Forum, visit AmericanLNGForum.com. As always, we are grateful for our audience. Please like and share this recording with colleagues. And for more industry news, videos, webinars, and podcasts, visit bicmagazine.com. Hey, remember, everybody, it's what we do together that counts.